Black-eyed kids, growing up to become adults, have they lost their charm? Or are they more terrifying than ever before? Grab a blanket, turn off your lights, and let's meet some of these men and women with black, soulless eyes. The payment. About 15 years ago, I was working in a school as a teacher for adult career training. A woman from the accounting department, a small-figured Cambodian girl, came to my class to collect an overdue tuition payment from a student. The student was a big person and towered over the woman. When she asked for the payment, the student kiddingly said, "What if I won't pay?" She looked up at him, her eyes turned jet black, and she said that, "I'll just have to kill you then." It felt as though the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees, and everyone in the class got scared. Later, we couldn't explain why. The student was so shook up that he offered her his watch to hold until he got the money. At that point, her eyes returned to normal, and she said that won't be necessary. Just have a check for me tomorrow. All of us were so freaked out that I had to dismiss the class early. Later, when I told my principal about it, he got a panicky look on his face and told me to forget about it and not to mess with the woman. The very strange incident. I had one incident that happened to me last summer while I was driving a semi over the road. I had just pulled into a truck stop inside Billings, Montana. I fueled up, parked the truck in the back of the lot. There are not many truck stops out west. Those that they have are unbelievably huge. Then went inside and showered, etc. Come nightfall, I ran out of movies to watch in my truck. I had to wait 34 hours before I could drive the truck again, legally. So I decided on going into the casino that was built inside the truck stop. I was playing slots, and a beautiful American Indian girl was serving drinks. After quite a few drinks, I started chatting with her on a more personal level. She told me that her shift ended in a few hours and that she would be behind the truck stop with a case of beer if I felt like partying. And I did. I hung around the front of the building, and when everyone started filing out the doors, I went around the back to meet her. I couldn't find her. But I did find an older Mexican woman who seemed to know my name and acted as if I've just been talking to her inside. I was buzzed, but not drunk or stupid. I knew that this wasn't the same person. What also struck me as odd is that she had no personal belongings besides the clothes on her back, no purse or keyring, just nothing. I, starting to feel a little tripped out because of this, began to act like I didn't know her and didn't want anything to do with her. She became cold and stopped trying to talk to me. Okay, well, that was freaking weird. But here's the totally screwed part. I walk all the way back out to my truck, climb in the back, change into my sleepwear, and laid on the bunk to read a book. Only a few minutes into the book, I hear 3 loud bangs on the side of my sleeper. I'm talking, holy crap, your truck's on fire, you have to get out now, loud. I open the curtains and roll down the window, and the very same young American Indian woman I had been speaking to was standing next to my truck. But I immediately picked out something wrong about her. It wasn't her lack of speech, odd, disheveled look, or rigid body movements. It was her eyes that got to me. Solid black. I could say that the dark night coupled with a few drinks could make me think her eyes were black, but I'm not. When I hit a switch in the back of my truck, the lights inside, they lit up like a baseball stadium. Her eyes seemed to be pulling the light into them, like miniature black holes. It reminded me of when a woman wearing mascara cries and she kind of looks like a raccoon. It looked like that. It looked like she had rubbed charcoal over her eyes. It also felt like my body was acting out of its own accord. My body was screaming at my fragile psyche to open the door and let her into my truck, despite the fact that she looked frickin' terrifying and hadn't said a single word to me since meeting her again. I remember having to choke out the word, no. It reminded me of when you're on the verge of tears but you choke through them to speak to someone. That's how the word no felt when it was passing my lips. I was too damn terrified to look out my side vents to see if she was still standing outside. I was too terrified that I might have ended up looking back into darkness, only to know in my mind's eye that she could be staring right back at me. I've got the shakes just from remembering that. Oh well, I don't need sleep. Just more coffee. The dark man with black eyes. It's really hard for me to talk about this, as it always brings up scary memories. Ever since I was little, I have had paranormal experiences. It all started when I was in 3rd grade. I had to move in with my father and stepmother. I didn't like the house that we moved into at all, and neither did my younger brother. It was really scary and I got bad vibes from it. I always had this one dream where I would end up being stared at by this man who was dressed all in black, had no hands or feet, and his face was white. He wore a top hat and had no features on his face except solid black eyes. He would always stare at me and get closer and closer to my face until I would wake up crying. This happened about once a week at least. After I moved into this specific house with my father, I started seeing what I called the dark man. I would see him in my doorway, staring at me late at night. One night I woke up and he was standing at the side of my bed and he reached out and tried to touch me. Since then, it's been about 7 years since I moved out. I now live with my mom, but I still have that dream sometimes. I often have it when I'm alone in my house or if something has been troubling me. I never got a good feeling from it, and whenever I wake up from it, I'm covered in a cold sweat. I sometimes still see him, but only for a moment before I blink and he's gone. I am not religious at all, but sometimes I do pray when I'm scared. Can anyone please tell me what this man was? I don't know what he means or symbolizes. And how can I get rid of him for good? The man with the black eyes. Last Saturday night, me and my friends went to my cousin's 18th birthday party. It was a good party, no stupid behavior, and everyone had a great time. The party ended and me and my friend were about to leave to go home when she suddenly started to get sick from having too much to drink, and my cousin insisted that we sleep at her house that night. I put my friend on the lounge and decided to get a soft drink from the fridge because I wasn't drinking alcohol. When I walked back to the lounge where my friend was asleep, standing behind her was a man in a white suit. He was looking at her and touching her hair. I slowly walked towards them, and he looked up at me. I noticed his eyes were black, There were no whites in his eyes at all. I froze where I was standing. I tried to scream, but couldn't. No sound came from my mouth. The man started walking towards me. He didn't take his eyes off me. He smiled a very creepy smile and stretched out his hands to try and touch me. I was so scared I started to feel my body shaking. I tried to get myself to scream or to at least move, but for some reason it wasn't happening. The man in the white suit with the black eyes was getting closer to me. In the middle of walking, while he was walking, I literally saw him fading or evaporating in front of my eyes. I started to cry when he touched my face, and he whispered something I couldn't understand. Then he was gone. What happened that night? I obviously got no sleep after that. I watched TV all night, and when my friend woke up, I told her what happened. She looked at me weird, but told me she thought she felt someone touching her hair when she was falling asleep. She still doesn't believe what I told her, but I have never been back to my cousin's house after that night and never will. If someone knows what it could have been that night, please let me know. I haven't slept properly since that night. I don't think I should tell my cousin what happened, though.